A few reminders for housekeeping. Our two speakers this afternoon will each have 15 minutes to present their papers. So if you could please keep an eye out on the chat for time reminders.
Nandito na po siya ulit.
Is he back, or should we proceed first to Yanni?
Hi, sir. Hi,
Oh
everybody.
yeah. All right.
Let me just show my screen just a moment. Okay. Can you visualize my screen right now? Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
So, good afternoon. I think that's in Australia, and good morning here in the Philippines. My name is Rafael Kevin Ainagal, and I'm a DepEd employee. I'm a teacher 3 at Libacao National Forestry Vocational High School, District of Libacao, Division of Aklan, and Region 6. So, I will be presenting my research paper, which is entitled um, Operation Galugad, ELT-Infused Glocalized Module as Means to Enrich Experiential Learning. This is an action research funded through the financial support by Basic Education Research Fund of Region 6, Western Visayas. Now, it is clear that the COVID-19 pandemic has utterly disrupted an education system that many assert was already losing its relevance. So, because of the COVID-19, social distancing and mass gathering protocols has affected the traditional teaching methods. And this, ladies and gentlemen, became the new normal. So, amid social distancing issues, distance education offers a great opportunity to continue providing the basic right to education. Now, the 21st century learner, also known as the millennials, are very much accustomed to this form of education because of their inclination on the use of gadgets and internet. And based on its advantages and disadvantages, it seems that distance learning is a catalyst to create a new, more effective method of educating students. Well, as you can see, modular learning includes print, those that can be read, and non-print, those that are digitized materials. Now, they offer the best strategies to overcome delivery of instruction during this pandemic. Now, why did they conduct this study? Now, take note that in 2018, the Program for International Student Assessment, or the PISA, um, conducted across 79 countries, revealed that the Philippines ranks last among the 79 countries in reading comprehension and also ends up in the low 70s in mathematics and science. With this pressing issue, I inserted glocalization in my study. Now, glocalization is the simultaneous occurrence of both universalizing and particularizing tendencies.
Technical difficulties with Kevin's
Oh,
connection.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
he's yeah.
All right. So I inserted glocalization in my research, which is the simultaneous occurrence of both globalization as well as localization. So, um, globalization per se means that something that can be adopted in the general public, and also localization using localized materials in the environment. Now, why experiential learning? I actually anchored my research on experiential learning because of this. Take a look at this picture. You can see, let's represent this picture as just merely knowledge. So, knowledge in itself is just like a blank state wherein you can see the pictures. It's in grayscale. But when we add experiential learning to it, the experiences that we have, then we can generate a picture that is moving and is colorful for the students to easily remember the concepts. Now, this is anchored to Kolb's theory of experiential learning. He proposes that with knowledge, we are seeing just diverse ideas or information. But when we add experience to it, there's connection with these knowledge and information. And the better way to do this is through the use of books and modules. Now, why Operation Galugad? Well, this is very common because for the past 2 years, we have the Operation Tokhang, right? So they are just like exploring everything to arrest people through their own ways. Now, Galugad literally means the explorer, and for me, and based on this study, when there is an enhanced level of experiential learning, then of course it directly relates to acquisition of knowledge. Now, my research questions are as follows. What are the contents of the developed learner's materials and its video accompaniment? What is the level of learning experience of students before and after the exposure to the learning module? Number 4, is there a significant difference between the level of learning experiences of students before and after? Also, what is the performance of students in bioenergetics before the intervention and after the intervention, and if there's a significant difference between these performances? Finally, if there's a significant relationship between experiential level and also the performance of the students. So based on this framework, in a previous research, I already developed and validated the module that will be used in this study, that was used in this study. So based on that, I theorized that it can enhance the student's level of learning experience, and thus it will also enhance the student's performance. Now, here are the designs and methodology. I used the quasi-experimental research, pre-test, post-test design. The locale is in my school with the respondents that are grade 11 students. Also, I will be using the following instruments.
We could, open for further questions later after Kevin's presentation. Is Kevin back in the call?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Yes. Okay. So, well, before the connection fell through previously, you were sort of at the 9-minute mark. So just be mindful about that, and you have the floor once again, Kevin.
Will somebody be sharing the slide for me?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Chris. Chris will share your slides. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. There. So I'm in slide number 18. So as mentioned earlier, the study is actually anchored to experiential learning, and the design of the material is also anchored with regard to glocalization. That is a combination of globalization and localization. So for the design of my study, it's quasi-experimental research, pre-test, post-test design. The locale is in my school. The respondents are my grade 11 students. The instruments utilized were as follows. The first one is a validated researcher-made test. KR20 was utilized for its reliability, and it's posted at 0.768 for the R value. The SELECT, or the Student Evaluation of Learning Experience Questionnaire, was also validated using Cronbach's Alpha. It wasn't written there, but it's at 0.77 for the R value. The stats used were mean, standard deviation, t-test, and Pearson's R. Can we go to the next slide, please? So with this study, the following were the steps. First, a pre-test for the SELECT was conducted, followed by a pre-test for bioenergetics post-test. By the way, bioenergetics post-test include the topics under photosynthesis, the cell, and cellular respiration. The three least mastered competencies in bioenergetics. Furthermore, the conduct of classroom instructions using the learning module was conducted, and then next slide, post-test for SELECT as well as for the bioenergetics. The same post-test was also conducted for the PPD part. Now, for the results, for questions number 1 and number 2, For the question number one, what are the contents? So, as mentioned, the module with its accompanying video is composed of the following topics in bioenergetics: the cell, photosynthesis, and acquisition and utilization of energy. Next slide, please. So, as you can see on the second column, that's the features of the learner's material. On the right, the features of the video accompaniment. Next slide, please. This is the continuation. If you could notice, I in the video accompaniment, I actually utilized code switch from Akyanon to English, just like the usual setup in teaching. However, at the bottom, for it to be globalized, there is an English subtitle for it. So next slide, please. Hello. I think it's freezing. Okay, so
Yeah. We can hear you. We can hear you.
alright. So for problems number 2 and number 3, the experiential learning level of students before and after the material was utilized. For the pretest, it's posted at 2.60, that is moderate experiential level for students. For the post-test, for the select, it's actually posted at 3.51, which is high experiential level. Next slide, please. With that, using t-test of the pre-test and the post-test select, we generated, can you go to the next slide? A p-value of 0.000, which means there is a significant increase in the experiential learning level of students after utilizing the learning materials. Now, please go to the next problem. For problem number 5 and number 6. Alright, so for problems number 5 and 6, this is for the test. So the pretest score for the pretest is posted at 12.78 over 30 items. For the post-test, it's 21.17 over 30 items. So for number 7, question number 7, the t-test result reveals that there is a significant increase in their performance level before and after utilizing the learner's material. Now finally, for the significant relationship for the last question, we can actually see that there is a significant relationship between the learning experience level of students and their performance in bioenergetics, as posted by the Pearson's R value of 0.000, and there is a positive linear relationship with the R value at +1. The next slide will reveal the linear relationship, so please go to the next slide. Alright, so there is a positive relationship. That is, if there's an increase in the experiential level of students, therefore we can guarantee that there is also an increase in bioenergetics performance. So to conclude, we can actually generalize that when learning materials are localized, contextualized, and infused with experiential learning activities, learners are more likely to be engaged in learning the concept. And please go to the next slide. Alright, so the one highlighted here is the experiential learning level of student is directly related to his performance in a competency. So thus, to enhance student performance in science and any other subjects, experiential learning must be taken into consideration. And finally, next slide. So teachers should develop their own learning materials to ensure availability. And teachers may attend trainings and seminars as to the basics of module development. Teachers may also provide independent learning activities through the use of the developed learning package to encourage self-paced learning. Next slide, please.
do you think are the key factors that can facilitate teachers designing own materials or curriculum? Did you encounter or do you foresee challenges in attending to linguistic diversity in instances, for example, where switching or multi-bilingual approach is used in teaching?
Okay, sir. I wasn't able to capture the
The
first part of the
first question.
question, but
Yeah, so
it's more of about the linguistic aspect of the
yeah.
code switching. Well, technically, I'm dealing with the students who are the participants of my studies are actually the students that I am taking care of in the senior high school program. So I should say that the localization aspect of the globalization is good for them. Although for the improvement, yeah, we really need to consult a linguistic in regard to cultural diversity of other students. But as you can see, this is just something that will pave its way towards development of learning materials in other areas, like whether it's in the archipelago of the Philippines or in other countries. As you can see, the learning materials can be readily adaptable because of the subtitle in English.
Mm. Evan, I just wanted to circle back to Nina's question in the chat. If you could say a little more about the concept of glocalization. Is this something that is specific to your discipline, or is it a broader concept that other disciplines can draw on?
Oh yeah, good question. Well, glocalization is actually an economic term. It is a term wherein, like for example, McDonald's per se.
Mm.
French fries in McDonald's is globally known, right? So when you say French fries, we already know that it is French fries. However, when we add localization to globalization, it becomes glocalization. Like for example, French fries here in the Philippines, we have different variations. Um, like when you go to Malaysia, their French fries are so spicy. In other countries, like in Singapore, they have strawberry flavored French fries. So that is inserting localized aspects or materials to a globally accepted term. So in this case, the modules are globally accepted. I inserted their materials, like for example, I cannot actually show the module itself, but in the module you can see that the materials used in experimentations are found in the environment. They are easily accessible. Like in photosynthesis, they will be using leaves like Mayana leaves, which are endemic in our locality. Now, in other countries, they can utilize other leaves perhaps for photosynthesis experiments.
Right. Thank you. We have another question in the chat from Dennis. Okay, so hi Kevin, very interesting melding of experiential learning and globalization. Extant literature suggests that there is no one direction where experience yields an all positive or negative impact. How did you standardize personal experience, knowing that each respondent comes from a variety of backgrounds, coming in their own varying experiences? How did glocalization address the issue of a variety of personal experiences?
Okay, that's really a good question. Experiential learning per se is something that is not just personalized, but also it is generalized. So when I say generalized or personalized, it's like this. We have in the material, I have their multiple intelligence or differentiated instruction aspects wherein they can create singing or poems in their outputs. Now, in regard to the tool that I utilized, this was actually validated by a psychometrician as well as the experts in science, wherein I asked them what are the examples of experiential learning activities that students should have in a certain concept. Like for example, in bioenergetics, like for example, the use of video, the use of experimentations. Now, personalization per se is kind of generalized in a sense there because like for any other tools, If it's qualitative in nature, then of course we can actually formulate specific questions. The previous research wherein this research rooted from is the validation of the materials. So in that certain research, most of the experiential learning activities that can be done on that specific concept were already integrated in the material, and those were the basis of the standardized select questions.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for Kevin, or perhaps for Yanni, if there are some people who might have not gotten into that window of for questions? All right. So I think, yeah, that seems to be it. Well, I want to thank you, Kevin and Yanni, for your fantastic presentations. You will both receive certificates of participation from the organizers of IRFP through email. To close this session, I just wanted to say that paying attention to method as a practice of writing about how we do our research reveals a variety of practices by which we might alight our respective research questions. Kevin Nagal's investigation on Operation Galugad offers an interesting insight on how centering experience and context in the learning processes of students improve their performance in earth and life sciences. Yani Yekla and her colleagues' study contributes a practical perspective to the delivery of LGU social services, i.e. awareness, which forms a crucial first step towards broader community access to those services. In both instances, Kevin and Yanni's practices of writing about research merge seamlessly with their conduct of research in the field. So while this session's title seems to, portend the doom of crisis, this session also brought together scholars whose respective works engaged in live concerns that shaped their own practices of telling us here in Australia and back in the Philippines how they did their research. In this latter case, crisis does not paralyze method to a halt, but rather empowers it to further action. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon.
Thank you, Alex, for moderating and managing this session despite the technical difficulties. So as I've mentioned earlier, I remembered Professor Liana's reminder yesterday to just that as scholars, we just need to learn how to live. So for example, we just need to be more patient with our slow internet connection or other technical difficulties such as like difficulties in logging in Zoom. So I find this session very interesting, and I hope Kevin's module would be adopted to other regions in the Philippines, because personally I have experienced tutoring the current module with my siblings back in the Philippines, and it's kind of really hard to with the current module. So I hope the experiential learning that Kevin's research would be adopted in the whole Philippines. And Yanni's research is also, we hope that it could also be adopted by the different, or nationally rather. So we are 9 minutes early before the next session would start, but maybe we can already wrap up this session and see you at the next meeting conference room. So bye for now. See you later.